All right, good. I will let you know, my students say this too. I don't multitask as well as I should. So when they see me like stuttering, they know I'm trying to do two things at once. So very little business right here. So let me do this. So I'm going to do share. I'm going to douse you with my skills right here. So welcome to Bermuda Stamp Chat. My name is Michael Blaine. I've been the host and not presenter today, but really just sort of a mediator. Basic things with Zooms. I think we're getting used to these Zooms, which is what I get excited about. So every time we're a little bit better with it, and makes it easier so we can focus on the things that we love, which is talking and discussing Bermuda stamps. I really don't have much as far as the things, other than if you've got something to share, we've got more than enough time to do that today. So I'm excited about that. Um, Make sure that it just came out, the Bermuda Post. So it's an exciting one, lots of good stuff in that. Make sure you're checking that out. And I always have to remind people, if you have something that you're interested in doing, writing about, certainly take that endeavor and do something with that. I did my first presentation last time. I was horrified with it, even though I teach, that's my job. But there's something about doing it to your your colleagues, and it changes things. So I can assure you that I survived with a little bit of crying, but it wasn't too bad. So if you're interested in putting together an article or something, certainly do so, please. And Everett's going to be the person to contact on that. But if you want to bounce anything off of any of us, certainly email us and we will help you with that. Today is a general show and tell, so easy cheesy, no stress right here, no presentations. The next one is going to be a presentation. That's going to be the August one. And again, my focus here is to try to do this monthly. Not everyone has to be a presentation. Some just can be sort of get-togethers and share some stuff and say hi to everybody, and then move on. I will remind you of Horse Philatelic Obsession. It's 700 pages. I'm not done with it yet, but every time I look at it, I see something interesting with that one. So I would recommend definitely checking that out. If you've got stuff to share, certainly put it in some place where people like me can share it and read it and get excited about it. So certainly check that out. All right. And with that said, that's all I had actually. Show and tell time. So I don't necessarily need to go first, but if someone wants to start something, you certainly are welcome. And I'm going to click off my share and open the floor out to somebody that would like to mention something or share something or whatever.
Let me start off. Okay, I hadn't planned to do this, but since I've been working on it this morning, uh, starting with the April 2016 issue of the Badger Post, I wrote 7 consecutive articles over the next 7 issues, and the title was Postal History of U.S. Forces in Bermuda 1941 to 1995. And what I did was I organized it by the base that I was talking about, the service, and also the postmark. I think that's now called, what do we call that? Macrophilia. That almost sounds like a bad word, but it's doing postal history by looking at postmarks. So I put it aside when I was done, and I really haven't looked at it because I've been busy with other things until about a month ago. And I decided, now that I've sort of quote unquote mastered doing manuscripts in Word perfect, at least a lot, or Microsoft Word, excuse me, a lot better than I was before. I'm putting that together and expanding it, and we'll probably do a book with it. Whether I'll ask for help me out. What's his name? Our editor.
Everett.
Yeah, Everett. Whether it's asking Everett to do it like Horst did, or the Collectors Club of Chicago, which is publishing a book that I and another guy just got finished with. It's about a first day cover study. I'm not sure how it'll go, but I'm glad to be back into looking at the postal history of the military in Bermuda. I've collected it for a long time. Of course, I lived in Bermuda for 8 years as the dependent of a civilian employee of the Air Force at Kinley Air Force Base. So it's close to my heart. So that's what I'm working on. And probably sometime in the next issue of the Bermuda Post, I might put out something asking people if they have covers they think I'd be interested in, to let me know. And of course, I buy a lot of them from Jim Forte out there in Las Vegas, or I have over the years. I haven't purchased too much lately. I probably have about 700 or 800 covers, so there's a lot to look at. So that's what I'm up to.
You said Air Force Base?
All of the bases.
Gotcha.
So there's Navy, there's Air Force, there's Marine Corps barracks. There was a submarine base during World War II. It's actually called a submarine repair facility, and it was on Ordnance Island in St. George's Harbor, which is no
Right.
bigger than a small football field. And they had a repair facility there. So I take each unit at a time. So
Right.
Kinley Air Force Base was first, Fort Bell and Kinley Army Air Force. Then when it closed, the Navy moved from the other end of the island and started the Naval Air Station there. They had a Naval Air Station on the other end originally that was just for seaplanes. And the base was nothing more than a couple hangars with some ramps to pull the P5Ms and the Coronados out of the water.
Hmm.
So I try to look at every one because they all had different postmarks.
Mhm.
And that's the organizational way that I approach this. So anyway, I spent
What were the
I spent
stamps
the
with
morning
that?
sorting through a box that I haven't looked at in a few years, trying to put all the postmarks in the same place, whether they're number 10 envelopes or regular size letter envelopes. I mean, I'm drowning in covers today.
Hmm.
Hmm.
It's fun.
John, what's the postage used for that? I think I remember, I don't remember if it was a David article or a Horse article. It was the, oh God, I'm sure it was somebody, it was ABCD. It was like the US where we did the letters for a while. And it was a display that basically followed the A US stamps, the B US stamps, the C US stamps, the D US stamps, all the way up. And I guess sort of was a precursor to the forevers. But I noticed that they were all military. So they were all Bermuda US bases sending either a bill home or something home, but they all were using US postage. So
Well,
what are you getting?
Horst has already always been interested, as am I, but it's a little bit of a mishmash. There were a lot of letters that were mailed from the base with a US stamp, and they were dropped in the post office at Bermuda.
Right.
And we don't know how many were thrown in the trash, but a lot survived, and they paid your electric bill, okay? Among other things. Some of it was more formal letters from the officials at the base to the officials in Bermuda. So there's a couple ways to look at that. When you see something that has a US stamp on it, mailed at the base, it could have been put in a post office box in Bermuda and found its destination, or it could have been taken back to New York on a plane and sent from New York to Bermuda as a foreign letter, and it would have got to Bermuda, right? It would have
Wow.
got to Bermuda properly. But you weren't supposed to be able to use US postage. And the same is true the other way. If you were mailing something to some GI at the base, you shouldn't have been able to drop it directly in the mailbox at the base with a Bermuda stamp. So that's something that Horst has looked into quite a bit, and he did the ABC stuff, and that's mostly military mail.
Yeah.
And that was more modern military mail, but it's interesting.
Right, John, I'll be looking to. I don't have any covers up either. Again, I'm a
Well,
newbie
don't
right
don't
here,
hold
but
don't hold your breath. I mean, this is a project that I hope I finish in a couple of years. So,
Right.
yeah,
thank you, John.
yeah.
Hey, Michael, I've got a cover I'd like to show, and I've got a question here.
All right, rocket.
So let me see if I can do this here.
You should have share screen at the bottom, and you should have access.
There we
And
go.
we got it.
You got it. Okay, so let me get to the cover that I wanted to look at. So can you see this cover here?
Yes.
So just what I've been able to divine about it so far, and I'd like any input on it. So it's a registered letter, and it was sent from Brooklyn, New York, to Germany, transatlantic mail. And if I go to the back of it, you'll see that it was stamped or postmarked in New York on January 19th. And it's got two sensor tapes on it. One is an English censor, 1684. And my assumption is that this cover would have traveled, based on what I've looked at the time, the northern route to Europe was on Pan Am was shut down. But there was still the route through Bermuda to Lisbon. And at this point in 1940, the Clipper was not flying out of New York City, but was flying out of Baltimore, which explains why there's a Baltimore backstop on here. So the initial registry mark is January 19th in New York, and then it got a registered mark on January 20th in Baltimore, and then it would have traveled to Bermuda. I was trying to figure out the English censor tape, and from what I gather, that starting on the 18th of January, so just the day before this letter was posted, the Bermuda government started to censor overseas mail, which was very controversial, but they were doing it anyways. And then this letter would eventually found its way to Germany, where it was censored again by the German armed forces. And the really interesting story about this is that the recipient was actually the cousin of the guy who owned this furniture store in Brooklyn, Paul Mossberg, who ended up emigrating to the United States through Japan in later in 1940. So he ended up in Seattle. So there's really a fascinating story on this whole thing. But the thing that I'm puzzled with, and maybe it's just because mail was slow during this part of the beginning part of World War II, if you look at the censor mark on the back, or actually on the receiving mark on the back in Beaufort, it didn't arrive there until April 12th, which was almost 3 months after it left New York. And I'm just curious, would this thing have been held up for a long time at a censor in Bermuda, or did it just take that long for this thing to make its way, from Baltimore to Bermuda to be censored and then flown to Lisbon and then, eventually found its way? I think it was censored, from what I gathered. The censor mark on the bottom there for the German army would have been in Frankfurt, which is where the airmail from North America was censored. But anyways, would you have any sense of how long this might have spent in Bermuda being looked at, and why it would have taken 3 months to get to Germany?
Do you have Peter Flynn's book? The one where he lists
No, I don't. Peter Flynn?
Peter Flynn.
Okay.
He wrote a book called Intercepted Mail, where he lists all the censored numbers who worked out of Bermuda.
Oh, really? Okay.
And the period of time that they were active as censors. Okay. It's pages and pages and pages. Okay. So I don't have that with me here, but I could look that up for you when I get home. And, when I looked at this label, it didn't look like an imperial censor label to me, unless something is covered in the corner where it usually had a PC number that identified it as British censor in Bermuda, PC 90, which means it's a Bermuda censor. But I didn't see that. This looks like an early censor label. So I could look that up when I get home and let you know.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that'd be great.
He has.
Okay, so you're saying like,
or if you're in touch with Horst, you could just ask Horst.
Okay.
I mean, Horst he wasn't a co-author, but Horst is the one in that book who lists, get this now, every flying boat that landed in Bermuda between 1937 and 1948, I think was the last one. He lists every flying boat landing and taking off and where they were headed and what airline and what plane, etc. It's an incredible reference, but that's it. That's an appendix in Peter Flynn's book.
Okay. All right. I'll check that out. Yeah. That's very helpful, John. Appreciate that.
The Collectors Club of Chicago published his book, and for a long time it was out of print, and people paid dearly for it. There was one on eBay about a month ago that I think did not sell. And when I asked somebody at the Collectors Club, he said, "Oh, that's on our what do you call it? Our you can go online and you can download it for like $20. It's the Collectors Club of Chicago."
Yeah, I'll check that out. Yeah, I'll definitely do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's a digital download.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a digital download.
Okay. Peter Flynn, I will look that up. Thank you.
Peter Flynn was a Navy doctor. He retired as a captain, and maybe you know about his exhibit. It's on our the Bermuda Collectors Society's website. And a little story about him. When the 1967 Arab-Israeli War was taking place, the Israelis had a ship that fired on a U.S. intelligence gathering ship called the Liberty. Maybe you remember this event. It was a big international scandal because the Israelis shot up an American intelligence ship off of the coast of Egypt. Peter Flynn was the surgeon on the USS Kennedy at the time, an aircraft carrier, who received these wounded American soldiers along with some other surgeons and doctored them up or whatever needed to be done. And whenever I mentioned that to Peter, he would always say, well, you don't have to tell everybody that. But I thought it's kind of like history. It's worth
Yeah, for
telling.
sure.
Yeah. So anyway, a little history about Peter.
Yeah. Well, thank you, John.
Yep.
Great cover, Mike. I mean, that's a really great find right there, and great investigation on that one.
Yeah. Thank you.
That one.
Now
Hey,
let me ask you, Michael, if I wanted to show a cover the next time we meet, how do I do this? Do I just scan it and put it on? Where do I put it?
So Mike did a perfect example of it. He was my exceptional student right there. So the way it would work is, yeah, you would have a scan of it on your computer. Just have it on your computer so you can see it. And the way a
Okay.
share works is, and this is what Mike did. Mike said he hit share, and then whatever, when he hit share, he said share my screen, and whatever he was looking at on his computer screen, we all were looking at on our computer screen. Now I've
Okay,
got
I
two
got it.
screens. We do that sometimes. So I have stuff on one screen and stuff on another, but that enables me to bring up stuff, bring down stuff. And that's what Mike did for us. So, and then when you're done, you hit unshare and we move from there. But that's, so whatever you can put on your computer screen is what we can see. And I have options so everyone can share and do that. So that's how that works.
Good.
So,
Thank you.
thanks for the perfect example right there. Anybody else? And by the way, I will mention this one. So I think now I'll have to ask Nigel about this. So I'm wondering too that if these will be recorded, if I post these for the membership so they can see the actual YouTube video of it, Mike, in the comments, you might have somebody that have that answer for you as well too.
Yeah.
So if I get comments, which is part of my idea as well, I am getting comments from other stamp organizations as well too. I will forward that to you. So
Perfect.
that because I was excited about what you said and I have no idea, but I'm definitely, that's really exciting stuff. So great one.
Good.
Thanks for sharing, by the way. George, Bob, anything?
I'm still too much of a neophyte to have brought anything along just yet. So I think I'll just sit in the bleachers and watch.
Well, Bob, you got something?
Nothing specific, but I do have a couple of random questions about Bermuda Post Office, and I was wondering if anyone here has any information on this. But one thing I've noticed since I rekindled my interest in Bermuda philately, there hasn't been a new definitive series in over 20 years. Does anyone know if one is scheduled? If the post office is planning to issue a new definitive series, or have they abandoned that concept?
Well, I'll tell you, the person that would answer that, I believe, is Horst, right? Isn't he on the committee for publication of new stamp issues?
Okay.
So I will let you know that he is missing this one. He let me know why, but he regrets that he's not at this one. But Horst is the one for that one. I'm going to write that down and get that to you. But that's a great question. I didn't think about that actually. So
Yeah.
when was the last definitive?
Back in 2002 and 3. Over that period, there were two separate issues of definitives in 2 lots. I think I don't have the specific dates, but one lot was released in 2002 and one in 2003.
It's interesting you raise this because I meet every 3 weeks with a group of collectors in Madison, and we do a little show and tell. Well, we've been meeting for years, and I'm kind of running out of interesting things to show and tell. So when I went to my stamp collection, which I never take off the shelf anymore, and I started with 1952, and without fail, every 8 years, Bermuda issued a new definitive series every 8 years. And
Right.
I don't have it in front of me. I seem to think that the last one was issued in, I would say 2000, but it might be 2002. I just don't remember. But,
Yeah.
and I didn't collect Bermuda stamps after that. I canceled my automatic thing from the post office, and because I wasn't so interested in the stamps. But they had a regular system every 8 years. The one exception is that when they overprinted the, what stamp was it? The buildings and houses they overprinted. Well, that came out after 4 years because they had the new decimal system and they had to issue some new stamps, and they just overprinted the current series. So
Right.
they had a regular schedule going. I didn't know that they had stopped, but interesting.
I'll check that. It's a good question. It's interesting on that one. And I do I like the newer Bermuda stamps as well too. And I will let you know that I was excited when we went to visit Bermuda. My wife let me go into the Hamilton post office, and I geeked out for a little while. What a beautiful post office! And if you go to the left there, you have the Bermuda Philatelic group right there, and they let you go through their books and slobber a little bit on their stuff. But they're really friendly people, and it's interesting. So Horse, I think, is the answer for that one. So
In 2019, we held a meeting in conjunction with the British West Indies Study Group. Is that the name of it? British Caribbean. I used to belong to it, but it merged with the group in England. Anyway, we had a joint meeting in 2019 in Bermuda, and there must have been about 20 of us. And we got the royal tour of the post office. I mean, everything, the back room, and talking to the head guy who came out, and we invited him to Grotto Bay and had some swizzles with him. And it was very nice. They were happy to know us. And now we have the woman who puts a little article in the Post every quarter from the Bermuda post office. So that's pretty nice too.
yeah, that would be an interesting. I wonder if she would do a Zoom for us. I'll have to put a contact. That'd be an interesting one. All right, John, that's a great comment.
Whatever you find out about why they haven't had an additional definitive, that might be something to just put a little paragraph in the Post on, and
Yeah,
Bob raised that question, and it's kind of a good one.
it is a good one. It is a good one. All right. Well, I have two for the group here. I have two for the group, and it was interesting because it was something I noticed with a presentation with Horst, actually, where he was going through the we were doing a practice, and I was looking at his covers, and what I noticed was, let me do this right here, share here. Yes, all right. So can you guys see the screen? So what I noticed was, and these are different covers, but I noticed that in the date, so this is July 24th, 69, I started noticing as he was talking to me that there were letters after the dates. Here's some B's. Farther one down, this one is, I think this is a B as well. This one is an A. And then I noticed, so, and I'd asked him about it, and let me make sure also I want to dazzle you with my Zooms thing here. So hold on. So I'm going to stop share. So here's where, here, share. All right. So are you looking at cancels here?
Yes.
See, not a gotcha. I do this with my students. I was like, are you looking at, because what I noticed all these years, I used to teach Zoom, students wouldn't tell you anything. So you'd be talking and what you were talking about wasn't there, but they would never say anything. So what I had asked Horst about this, and what he said was that, and it blew me away. So he said that for Hamilton specifically, and this is, by the way, from Horst's Philatelic session, that they were putting these, what were called cancellation letters. So you had B's, you had an A, you had a C, you had these different ones. And Horace actually wrote me a little thing. He said he looked in his notes. And what he said was that these are cancellation letters. He said that they start in the 60s, and blew me away. So I got excited about this because I was like, oh my God, I wasn't even thinking about this until I saw it. So he said at the post office like Hamilton that an A meant an A after the date meant that it was collected up to 11:30 when basically airmail closed. And then the B basically was like 11:30 to 2:30 when the local mail closed, right? And then he said the C was between 2:30 and 5. Of course, he said any mail post after 5 was postmarked the following morning, but they still were marking it. And then he added here, he said that there was an exception on Mondays and Wednesdays on these 2 days that there was a late British Overseas Airways flight to the US and airmail for those flights closed at 3. As a result, the collection letter C was only used between 2:30 and 3, and the collection letter D between 3 and 5. So he said if you're looking for them, D is an interesting one to have because they're scarce and you don't see a lot of them. So I thought that was interesting. So of course I go through all my stuff. And so here's the one I have. I don't think it's the D that he's talking about, but there's another one with an A right here. But when you look at it, it's pretty cool. So here's the cover that I have. And it's from the 70s, 71, so it's a later one. It's not in the 60s, but it has a D cancel. I'm only mentioning it because, and here's a close-up of it, because it's another aspect of Bermuda stuff. So we had Mike who was looking at the sensors and he was able to figure out where it was. It's something that I think I normally would have missed or not thought about unless as he was going through the covers, I noticed the A, the B, the A, the B. No US has this. I'm not seeing I haven't really seen it a lot with other countries, but I'm not that sort of experienced with the other countries. But I thought it was an interesting aspect for collecting Bermuda covers that you could be looking for the letters as well too. The registration one was an interesting one. Of course, you looked at I'm trying to think. I think this one had it too. You could even collect where it says "Keep Bermuda Beautiful," sort of like the logos that they did. You could collect logos as well too. So I think for me as a Bermuda collector, you sort of open this Pandora's box of like things that are pretty interesting and legitimate postal type things. And so here's one with the letters. And again, I'd never seen it before. And now that when I'm looking at covers, it's the first thing I look for to see what kind of letter it is. But anybody else have any thought about this or any experience with this at all?
Can you go back to Horst letter?
Yes.
No, not the page, the letter he wrote to you.
Oh, my bad. Okay, sorry, my bad. I didn't have to scroll out. I could have just pushed you to the top.
Okay. So why do you think that the D that you have is not the one he's talking about? Just because you found a lot of them?
No, because it's in the 70s. It's 71. And I wasn't sure how long they continued that.
Oh, I see. So here he says during the 60s, this is what this meant. Right?
Yeah. But I've seen the A, B, and C used past that. It looks like 80s, 90s, they stopped doing that. Like I've seen New Hamilton. I don't think the New Hamilton has that anymore.
Okay. I've noticed those letters and I knew they had something to do with time. I didn't know it was quite as precise. I thought it was morning and afternoon, and I don't know that
I did too. And I asked him, I said, is that morning? Is that like AM and PM?
Yeah.
And this was his answer. And it blew me away. But then it sort of adds another aspect to your collecting. You're sort of like, okay, you can get a more specific time on when that was. So, all right. Well, thanks, Matt. So that's the one I have. So I have one more, and this is more of a, and George, you said you said you're kind of new as well or working on stuff?
Yeah, fairly new.
Good. I need a kindred spirit here with all these fantastic experts here. So here's the one I have. And I'm gonna do, let me do it like this. I'm gonna do this. Zoom here. Stop share. Share. All right, so these guys. So when I first joined the Bermuda Collector Society, I think it was Jerry actually who said, "Oh, you need to, when you're collecting these," he was talking about having a full collection of these, and you have sort of the two major kings here that you're looking at. So my question to the group is, for me, and George, hopefully I can include you as well. So you can either collect the major denominations, so like the 2-6 right here. So you would have, I think for this one, there are four, maybe like four denominations. But if you're using the Blue Mountain and you flip the page, and I think I've seen great literature on this as well too, you can actually collect these by the month that they were printed. And you have these like color variations. And for my album, for the Blue Mountain, I think it's Blue Mountain, that it gives you color combinations. So my question is, as a neophyte, as a new person here, how do I approach identifying this?
The first thing you do is get a good night's sleep, because this is an incredibly challenging area, which is why I have one stamp of each denomination of the most common type in my album, and I don't collect the various printings, the various color shades, the various shifts in the design itself. You know, John Pazine is kind of in the United States at least, certainly one of the experts on this stamp. This is called a key plate, right? He's the key plate. He's the key plate expert, and he loves to get something on eBay that the seller didn't recognize for what it was, and he gets it as a bargain. But this is probably the most challenging area of Bermuda stamp collecting, in my humble opinion. That's why I don't do it. I don't mean to be discouraging, but it's tough.
Well, no, John, because I read, I think it was John's display, his literature on the key plates. And you know, he has color pictures, he has examples, samples from each month that was printed. And I'm looking at mine, and I get maybe if you had like they do this with US, if you have definitely one that you know is this specific stamp, you can compare. You can put them together,
Right.
you can shades and things like that. But you know, when I'm looking at the descriptors, it's like it's challenging, and to a point where it's sort of like, yeah, I don't want to put it into a month if I'm not 100% sure. So, but so what is, other than sending it to, I guess would be to John, but it's an interesting one because they clearly are saying you can identify, you can discern one month from the other. And I think some are maybe clear. I get the errors in some of the plates, but wow.
Well, you know, if you go to the Bermuda Collector Society website, I think there's a list of books that have been written about Bermuda. There's at least two that have been written about key plates, probably one from George VI and one from George V. I don't remember, because when I had them, I sold them on eBay because I wasn't interested. But I think in the list of sources, or whatever we call it on the website, just by the title, there'll be a couple books that occasionally come up on eBay, or maybe you can find them at a big stamp show. And those would be something you could have on your desk rather than sending it to someone like John, although he's always been very helpful to me, and I'm sure he would be to you too.
Yeah.
Well,
All right.
Michael, one of the earlier issues, maybe in the first few years of issues of the Bermuda Post, there was an article by the late Bob Nick Geiser, and
Right.
he has a chart of how to start to attempt to identify the various printings. And as I recall, the easiest sort is by perf, right? That's pretty simple. Then it's maybe by the key plate color, then the head color, and I was able to sort through about half of my old key plates, which were in a box, and I finally decided to sort them out to see what I really had. I only got about halfway, and then when you get into the color shades, it just became impossible. I just couldn't handle it. Because there's no color chart to go to. And then you look in a catalog, they have a different way of describing the color. You look at various articles, they have different ways. So that's where it broke down. I started doing it again a few months ago, and I maybe identified a few more, but then I said, I can't go any further because I really don't know what I'm looking at now.
But there
So,
were some perfs, specific perfs that would identify a specific one then. So I didn't realize that there were perfs. I thought all the perfs were same. They're different.
roughly there's 3 different perfs.
All right. You know what? I've actually tell you something. I've gone back to the original Bermuda Post. I'm reading them from issue 1 on. But I'm reading them during my lunch break, so I haven't hit that one yet. So I'll have to look for that one. But I'm going back, and that's something interesting with the Bermuda Post. There's so many things written in the Bermuda Post. You kind of like, unless you get lost in it a little bit, and sort of like, I know there's probably something written for that. So I appreciate you, Bob, telling me to look for that. I'll definitely try to zero. And you said it was one of the earlier ones, so I'll look for that.
Yeah, and I'll send it to you. Your email address is in the Bermuda Post.
Yes.
So I'll look through it. As I printed a copy of it and I have it somewhere. I'll pass it through to you.
Well, I'll tell you, I got frustrated with looking at watermarks. And this one, and John, I like your approach to it, because I was like, I'll just put them in the front, the basic ones here. And if I get duplicates, I'll file them in someday in the future. If they have some great app that will identify it for you, I'll buy that one. It'll do it. They have that. I just had a catalog from, it was an auctioneer in England, I think, and they were talking about an app now that will give you the perfs. You click it and it'll tell you what the perfs are. And it will identify the stamp to a certain degree, but it will automatically read the perfs, and if there are perf errors in it, which I thought was interesting. So maybe, John, if we wait long enough, there'll be an app on the computer that will identify these sites for us, and we can put our minds to rest right there. But I like your approach right there.
Yeah, Michael, if you pursue this, I wish you the best of luck. It's literally reminds me of those people that love to plate like the 1851, U.S. imperforates, and they look for all the little minutia marks. And I've tried that a few times, and I thought, what, life is too short. I think I'll do something else with my time.
Well, I think I'm gonna go with John's for now and just put them in the basic ones. And if I get a specific one, but you're right, there aren't numbers with them. So I'm using this one. So you either have the page that is, you either have this page, or, and this is the one I'm struggling with, you have that page. And yeah, and the only reason I have ones in there is because I bought them and they had been identified for me. So from the
But this book is very helpful as well.
Yeah, the catalog.
The BSC catalog.
Yeah.
That was very useful. But again, it's the shading, the colors. I can't I can read the words, but I can't see the color.
Right.
That's the difficult part.
And that's the Stanley Gibbons, right? Their specialized catalog for Bermuda.
This one, there's the BCS numbering system. It's not cross-referenced to Gibbons or Scott.
Oh, it's not.
That's David Corden's catalog.
Oh, gotcha.
He published that. Did he do that with Horst? I don't remember.
It's a great book. It's amazing the research they did. But
Bob, give me the name of it again. I think there's a link we can.
I think you can get it from this society.
Right.
Yeah.
Bermuda specialized. Okay, thank you. I will add that to my list of things to get.
I look at this more than any other book I have on Bermuda, so it's great.
Another source of information on the key plates is there has been such a flood of people dying who are Bermuda collectors, and their collections go up for auctions. The auction catalogs describe these key plates in detail, and I have to assume they're described correctly.
Yeah.
So if you hear of a collection going up for auction, get the catalog or go online and look at it. And it usually helps you to compare colors particularly, even though they print the catalogs and you think that might lose a little bit in printing. But that's another source.
John, that's a great idea. And I'll look into that one as well too. Excellent. Thank you.
Say,
All right.
before I forget, Mike, could you look at that sensor cover again and tell me the sensor number? Is it 1574?
It is 1684.
That was close.
Very close. 1684.
1684. Okay, thank you.
All right. Anything else for the good of the good?
Is anybody going to gas in August in Chicago? I'll be there. No.
Nope.
Well,
I'll be there Wednesday. I'm getting there on Thursday. I leave on Saturday. So
me too.
Yeah.
I'll be at the Collectors Club of Chicago table doing my penance for a couple hours on
okay.
on Thursday and Friday, and so I don't spend too much money at the Bourse. But
There you go. Yeah, I'm going to do the American Airmail Society and then the American First Day Cover Society. So
yeah,
I'll
good.
keep me out of trouble for 4 hours at least.
Do you collect first day covers?
Not really. No. I mean, I did. I actually had a one that I really enjoyed collecting was the Wisconsin 300th anniversary of its territory, the 1934 issue. And I
Yes.
like collecting that one, but Ralph seems to have locked up the market on all those first day covers. So
Well, what he hasn't locked up, I hope I've locked up.
there you go. See,
You know, he and I have just finished writing the book, 1948 Wisconsin stamp,
okay.
and he has exhibited in 1934, but I've never exhibited mine. So he's been after me to do it because we both exhibited our 1948 stamp at Chicago PEX. I don't know, 7, 8,
Yeah.
10 years ago. I don't remember, but so Ralph and I talk almost every day because we're down to the last week of getting our book to the editor. So
Oh, very good. Yeah.
yeah,
I've collected the 34 issue. I've got a nice collection of cachets and actually I did a story for First Days using Ralph's couple of articles that he wrote. And it was on the autographed First Day covers from that period. But yeah, I'm waiting for some of those nicer cachets to come on the market one of these days. So
you know, if you look in the current Badger postal history, which you should get in the mail today if you haven't already got it, because we posted it a couple days ago. Somebody asked me in the last few months, people referred to the John Hotchner list, and they wanted to know what's the John Hotchner list. So I just wrote a little paragraph. And for those of you who might not know, you might know John Hotchner, a well-known American philatelist. There's a list that if you're collecting a first day cover, there's a list that exists that will tell you if anybody else is already collecting it, because if they are, you might as well pick another stamp because they've already cherry picked all the good stuff. Okay. And I learned that the hard way. Although Henry Gittner always seems to have something hidden up his sleeve that he can pull out and sell to me. But the John Hotchner list is a list of all of the covers that people have told him about who are collecting first day covers. And it's a great list, phone numbers, email, contact points. So you can see if someone's already beat you to it. So, like Ralph.
Well, that part of my collection is off on the side for some future year. So
yeah.
After the change.
Yeah, Ralph and I'll die eventually. I'm 82, he's 87, I think so. I don't know what eventually means, but heaven forbid, yes.
All right. I appreciate everyone coming in. I thoroughly enjoyed talking with everyone, and looking forward to more of these. So I said, sometimes small, sometimes large, it doesn't matter to me. Just be able to meet some people and talk and learn some stuff, and I'm kind of excited about stuff as well too. So I wish you all well. Have a great weekend. I will let you know, my daughter, I have 3, so my middle is graduated. She's going to be going, she wants to be a pre-K teacher. So in August, we are moving her into Salisbury University, which is Maryland University. So she's excited about that. So and then I have one daughter left. So we'll see how that goes. Check them all. Oh.
Well, nice seeing everybody.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
Take care,
Thank you.
everyone.
Bye
Fun.
now.
Thanks. Great call. Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.
Take care, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye.